Hey guys, welcome to video 108. Today we're going to start talking about differential amplifiers, and we're going to start at the beginning with the differential pair. The schematic for the basic differential pair is shown down here. In this case I'm using NPN BJTs, but I could just as easily use PNP transistors or field effect transistors or even vacuum tubes. Now, the main thing to notice is that the two transistors have their emitters connected together and they're biased up by this current source that I'm labeling I sub EE. For the discussion today, and most of the time actually, we'll assume that this current source is ideal, therefore it has infinite internal resistance. And another assumption we're going to make is that these two transistors are matched, that is, they have identical electrical characteristics. Now, it's also traditional for differential amplifiers to be powered using bipolar power supplies. It's not absolutely necessary, but it's very common. Now, the differential pair or differential amplifier is the fundamental building block for a lot of linear integrated circuits, probably most importantly operational amplifiers, and we'll be getting to them pretty soon. But looking at the circuit, if we assume that the two transistors are matched, I sub EE is going to divide evenly between the two sides, and we get a collector current for each transistor, IC equals I sub EE divided by 2. And if everything else is matched, including these collector resistors, the VCE values for the two transistors are equal also, so I'm not going to include a subscript on them, we'll just call it V sub CE. Now, in spite of how scary and intimidating this circuit might look, its analysis is really pretty straightforward. We've got a big chunk of it done already. IC equals IEE over 2. And over here we can see by inspection that the base voltages are both 0. And since we're assuming the transistors are in the active region, VBE is about 0.7 volts, and the emitter voltage, common to both of them, is equal to negative VBE, that is negative 0.7 volts. Again, that's because the bases are sitting at 0 volts. Now, when we want to calculate VCE for the two transistors, because we've got the bases tied to ground, the equation comes out to be relatively simple and maybe a little surprising. If we just use KVL working from the positive rail down, we've got VCC minus ICRC plus VBE. And the equation is shown over here. And the reason we're not factoring VEE into this equation is because the base is connected to ground and the base emitter voltage is relatively constant at 0.7 volts throughout the active region. So we get this relatively simple VCE expression. Coming over to the current source, because it's ideal, Vx can have any value that satisfies KVL in the circuit. Now, in real life, there may be limitations to what this value can assume, but the KVL equation we come up with for it is Vx equals VEE minus VBE. We're assuming the magnitude here of the negative supply rail. And the reason it's fixed at this value is because the emitter voltage is always, in this case, about negative 0.7 volts. That means the drop across the source will always be 0.7 volts less than the magnitude of VEE. What we're going to do next is look at the different ways we can configure the differential pair to create differential amplifiers. But before we do that, I don't want to forget to mention that sometimes the differential pair is called a long-tailed pair, and we could call this current source down here the tail current. Okay, let's go take a look at the ways we can use this circuit as an amplifier. There are 4 different ways we can configure a differential pair to form differential amplifiers. The first one we'll look at is single-ended input, single-ended output. In this case, I'm using the left-hand side, Q1 as my input, taking the output from the collector of the right-hand transistor Q2. Now, there's no law that says we couldn't use the collector of Q1 as the output, but traditionally this is the way that a single-ended in, single-ended output is configured. Now, the next one we'll look at is differential input, single-ended output, and this is probably the most useful of all the configurations here. In this case, we're still taking the output from the collector of Q2, but we're applying inputs to both the left and right sides of the circuit. That's why we call it differential in, because it turns out this amplifier amplifies the difference between these two input signals. Now, we can also have single-ended input and differential output as shown here. In this case, I'm using the left side as my input, and I'm referencing the output at the collector of the right side with respect to the left side. So this is a differential voltage at the output. And finally, we could have a differential input, differential output. We're applying signals to both bases, and we're taking the output across from collector to collector. And remember, the direction of this voltage sensing arrow is arbitrary, so we could get different signs associated with the gain or output voltage depending on how we configure this voltage sensing arrow. An important thing to notice about all of these circuits is that there aren't any coupling or bypass capacitors used here. These are all direct coupled amplifiers. And that means that we're going to get frequency response that extends all the way down to DC or 0 Hertz. Okay, now let's start with an analysis of the single-ended in, single-ended out amplifier. The basic circuit we're working with is over here on the left, and we're going to do a small signal analysis of the circuit, which means we're going to replace our power supply rails with short circuits to ground, and when we do that, we get this equivalent circuit shown over here in the middle. Now, as far as the input signal is concerned, it's driving an emitter follower. We're driving the base, taking the signal out of the emitter. And the second transistor is acting as a common base amplifier. We're putting the signal into its emitter, taking the signal out from its collector. We're going to start our analysis by looking at the common base section of the amplifier. Hopefully you'll remember from way back when we talked about this stuff originally that the input resistance to a common base amp with a grounded base terminal is simply the dynamic emitter resistance re. That's defined down here, and we looked at that in the previous video. Now, the gain of a common base amplifier is RC over re when we have a bypassed or grounded base. And now if we come over to the emitter follower section, remember normally we'd assume the gain of the emitter follower is about 1, but in this case it's going to work out to be 1/2, and we'll see why in a minute. But the load on the emitter follower is the input resistance to the common base amplifier. They both have the same little re values, re1 equals re2 equals little re. And if we look at the input resistance to the left-hand transistor, we see that it's beta plus 1 times little re for Q1, and the external resistance, which is the input resistance of stage 2, or little re2, and that works out to be beta plus 1 times 2 little re. And remember, beta plus 1 is typically very close to the same value as beta, so normally we'll just approximate the input resistance as equal to 2 beta times little re. The transistors are matched, so they have the same beta. And I just noticed I have a bit of a typo here. For some reason I put a capital E down here instead of little e. I don't want to cause any confusion, so I'm going to fix that. And there we go. Now it's noted the way it should be. Now, as I previously stated, the gain of the common base amplifier, I'll call it AV2, is equal to RC over little re. There's no negative sign. It's not an inverting amplifier. And the voltage gain of the emitter follower is equal to little re divided by little re plus what it's driving, which is another little re. So that's little re over 2 little re, and the gain of the emitter follower is 1/2. The overall gain of the amplifier, V out over V1, is the product of these two gains, and that works out to be 1/2 RC over RE, or RC over 2 little re. Now remember, because we're using direct coupling, there's going to be a DC offset at the output voltage, and we're going to look at ways to get rid of that without using coupling capacitors in some future videos, but for right now, just keep that in mind. Now also remember, I said that there's no law that says we have to use the collector of Q2 as our output. We could also use the collector of Q1 as our output, so we'll take a quick look at that configuration next. And I'm just going to call that single-ended in, single-ended out version 2. Okay, the analysis for this version is very similar to what we just did before. We're going to deactivate our power supply rails, which turns them into short circuits to ground. And I should have mentioned explicitly before that when we deactivate this I sub EE current source here, we replace it with its internal resistance, which is an open circuit, so that's why there's nothing connected to this junction between our two emitters over here. Now in this variation, we're using Q1 as a common emitter amplifier. Q2 is still a common base, but we're not using its output, so all it is here is a load on the emitter of Q1. And if you recall, the gain of a common emitter amplifier with an external emitter resistance is negative RC divided by little re plus the external resistance. In this case, it's also little re, so the voltage gain for this common emitter is negative RC divided by 2 little re. It's exactly the same as the previous version, except now we've got a negative sign because this is an inverting amplifier. From the perspective of the input voltage, nothing has changed here, so the input resistance is still approximately 2 beta times little re. And again, I put a capital E here for some reason. That should be a lowercase e, so let me fix that. And there we go. Now it's the correct format. All right, now what we're going to do next is take a look at what's arguably the most common and most useful version of this amplifier, and that is differential in, single-ended output. The circuit we're working with is over here on the left. We've got two sources driving the circuit, V1 on the left, V2 on the right, and we're taking the output from the collector of Q2. We're going to use superposition to analyze this circuit and determine the response for each source acting individually. Then we'll sum them together to get the net response. We're going to start as usual by deactivating our supply rails and this current source. And if we deactivate source V2, leave V1 active, we get this equivalent circuit here. This is exactly the same as the first version of the single-ended input, single-ended output circuit that we analyzed. So we don't really need to do any analysis. We've already done it. What we have is the voltage gain is RC over 2 little re, and the output due to V1 acting all by itself is VO1 equals the gain times V1. Now, if we deactivate V1 and reactivate V2, we get this equivalent circuit here, and this is essentially the same thing as the second version of the single-ended input, single-ended output circuit we looked at previously. The gain for that configuration was negative RC over 2 little re. So V out in response to V2 acting alone is the gain times V2. And remember, we're disregarding any DC offsets in the output at this time. We can account for that later on. All we have to do now is add these two responses together to get the total response of the amplifier. So over here we see V out equals VO1 plus VO2. Here are the two equations we came up with. We factor out RC over 2 little re, and this is what we end up with. The output is the gain times V1 minus V2, and this is why it's called a differential amplifier, because it's amplifying the difference between the two input voltages. And when we're working with the differential in single-ended output configuration, it's pretty common to refer to the voltage gain as the differential gain. I'm denoting that as A sub D here. And the difference between V1 and V2, the differential input, V sub ID. And using these notations, we can write the output voltage as shown here, V out equals AD times VID. If you want to, you can account for the DC offset on the output. Here I'm calling it VOQ, a quiescent output voltage. We just add it on to the response to our normal inputs. So we would consider this VOQ to be an error term, and AD times VID is the actual desired response. Okay, we're getting pretty close to the end here, so let's go on over to the next page and take a look at the final two configurations. Let's start over here on the left with the single-ended in differential out configuration. The analysis is identical to what we've done previously, so this is going to go pretty quickly, but let me switch to the pencil here and explain it this way. Let's assume that V1 is going positive. Now, because Q1 is a common emitter, it's inverting, we're going to have its collector going negative by AV times V1. And similarly, over here at Q2, we've got a non-inverting amplifier, and its collector is going to go positive by the same amount, that is AV times V1. And since we're looking at the differential here, we're going to see twice as much voltage change as we would for a single-ended output. And that's why there's no 2 in the denominator of the gain equation here. The gain of the amplifier for differential outputs is simply RC over little re. And because we're taking the differential between the two collectors, we don't have a relative DC offset at the output. The output voltage differential is the gain times V1. Now, both collectors are sitting at the same DC potential, so there is an offset in absolute terms, but not in terms of this differential. And finally, over here on the right, we've got differential in, differential out. Since it is a differential output, the gain is going to be RC over little re. It's twice what we would get for a single-ended output amplifier. And if we go through the analysis, the differential input voltage is again V1 minus V2. So the differential output is equal to the gain times the differential input, RC over little re times VID. Okay, and that wraps it up for today's video. Next time we're going to take a look at how to implement these current sources we're using to bias the emitters, and eventually I'm going to build some of these as well just to demonstrate that what I'm telling you really works when you have a real circuit. So with all that in mind, I will see you guys next time around.